the EXP Podcast. I'm joined once again by my co-hosts Kem and Luan, and we have two legendary guests with us this week, Jeremy and Jobye, and they're joining us to talk about some more senior topics. If you could just introduce yourself, guys. So start off with Jeremy.
Oh man, legend number one. My name's Jeremy Estrellado. I'm a lead environment artist at Massive Entertainment, Ubisoft in Sweden.
Hey, I'm Jobye-Kyle Karmaker, and I'm a senior environment artist at Respawn Entertainment in Los Angeles.
So we asked you guys to come on because we had a kind of couple of requests to talk about some topics that were more related to people a bit further into their career. So guys on the cusp of senior or looking to kind of advance their careers a bit more. And we had a few things to kind of discuss about that. So hopefully you guys will be able to help out some of our listeners.
We'll try.
So the first topic.
Yeah, we'll try.
Fingers crossed.
Nice. The first topic that we got here is when you have juniors come into the studio and you're mentoring them, how much attention do you give to those guys? Because it's kind of a balance, right, between helping them to flourish and being able to manage your own stuff. So what's your kind of approach to that? Who wants to start us off?
You want to go first, Joey?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely an important thing. Like, I think it's part of being a senior, like being able to manage your work, but also like if you're working on a map with someone under you, like to help them grow and kind of start them up small, but then kind of gradually be building up their workload and giving more and more responsibility to them, right? To kind of help them prove themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, early on in my career, I definitely had that where when I was just like a modeler at Ubisoft Toronto and working under a level artist, like kind of had a lot of guidance and made a lot of mistakes, and when he was like always helping me through that. So it's nice to kind of give that back as well now that I'm kind of that position.
Yeah, it is always kind of about that, right? Like you jump in as a junior and you just kind of, you're like, okay, here's all the documentation. Like read through all this while we make sure your computer is working and that you actually have a login. No. So all that, I mean, all of that stuff kind of gets through, and then you start with like maybe if they make an asset or if their job is specific to making assets, you try and just give them an asset that kind of is pretty well rounded to the entire experience of trying to make content for that given engine. And the franchise or game that you're working on. And then it's just about like seeing how they do with that, correcting things that are kind of bumpy in the beginning, and it'll all just kind of smooth out, and you pretty quickly get a feel for what they're driven for, and like you're talking to them as well about like what they want to do and the direction they want to go, and you'll get essentially an artist that wants to go in a specific direction, and you just start giving them those things and they'll just take off with it. It's pretty easy.
So how's it work with, like, you bring a new artist in and you've given them tasks? Obviously, everyone works at different speeds. So, like, as a senior or lead, how do you deal with like potential mistakes or hiccups? Like, do you have a rule that you guys have, or is it just like you understand that everyone's different? You gotta give them as much time as they need.
It's mostly down to that because like every person is so different and how they handle it and their speed and whatnot. So like you almost kind of have to tailor it per person and kind of feel it out. Like, and inherently, I always feel they're a bit slower in the beginning, but then you're kind of getting a feel for working with them and like kind of giving them feedback and how they adjust and stuff like that. And gradually it gets faster and better, and like you have to kind of hold their hand a bit less, ideally. But that's generally how it seems to go. Just kind of keeping that back and forth going, and just learning how to read each other and read each other's feedback and stuff like that.
How do you deal with someone that's, say they're particularly slow or they need a lot of hand holding? They're not like a bad worker at all, but they just require a lot more attention. Do you find that you try to push them to like thinking about what they're doing more, or do you just get them to ask more questions that they don't understand? Or yeah, how do you deal with that?
I guess that's kind of expected. Like, I remember when I first got into games and it was like, am I even doing this right? And you're questioning yourself a lot. and you're surrounded by professionals now, right? So it's like, oh man, so you'll inherently be even slower than you would normally be at home. So like you're not even performing at the level that you were hired for, is the fear. But I think a good team will just expect that you're going to be slow in the beginning, and you just make sure that they understand that asking questions is like 100% okay.
Yeah, don't be afraid of asking questions.
Yeah,
That's the worst thing you can do is like you come in, kind of like get in your head, don't ask questions, and kind of be even slower than you would, and without giving anyone a heads up. And yeah, ask
What if you
And
get
how's that?
someone that stays slow for a while, like for like a good while?
For
oh
that,
man.
I mean, like if it reaches that point, like I just try to like anytime you're giving feedback or kind of expecting like a certain amount of work from them, you try to get a timeline out of them, try to get them used to like kind of committing to a time and delivering on it, right? Might not always hit it, but at least you just try to gradually get them into that mode.
Yeah, timelines, man. If you can put like an estimate on assets, like everyone should be using something like Jira, right?
Yeah.
You get an estimate on an asset, and then you're checking in with them, and if they feel like they're falling behind, if you have another artist that can help pick up the slack, they support them, or take it over in a non-aggressive way, and they help show them the way. And then using like either your one-on-one reviews where you're just kind of like seeing how they're doing, or like trying to understand like if there's things that are in their way that are slow, they feel like is slowing them down, that you can help alleviate that stress or pressure. Because I think when you start removing that stuff, that's when it really they'll start to speed up.
Yeah, and I mean at the end of the day too, like if it ever reaches that point, like at the end of the day, you're a team. It's like at one point when I was lead at UB before I left, like there's one person under me who was like working on an asset. It wasn't that he was slow or anything, but he was just kind of struggling to get it past the review process. Like it wasn't getting through. It kept getting reworks and stuff like that. And then he was just kind of getting frustrated and kind of losing steam on it. And at one point, I was just like, all right, well, seems like this is kind of being a frustrating process. I can kind of just take it over on my end and try to get it through, and like you can kind of move on to your next task. It was kind of starting to delay him for other stuff. And
You can swap
yeah,
the tasks around.
yeah, exactly. It's like at the end of the day, like if that happens, like don't take that as a bad thing. Like just taking the hit as a team and then we're moving forward and trying to unblock each other. So it's like, yeah, sometimes that happens, but
You also have like just like an off week. Like you can have like personal lives will greatly affect the how you're working. And so as long as you're talking with your lead and everyone around you understands like, oh, I'm going through some stuff, and it doesn't have to be like explicitly detailed or anything like that, but at least with your lead, they'll understand a little bit more and be able to adapt accordingly. If they need to, hopefully, they'll remove tasks from you, not because you're slower, but to like lessen the stress so that you don't light yourself on fire at work.
yeah,
You'd hope so.
yeah, I think that's the case. It's like really asking questions, be communicative. Like whether you're a junior or senior, it's like, yeah, those are pretty important.
Yeah, I think people tend to maybe get quite comfortable and then stop like asking questions or stop communicating, and then it's quite easy to fall back into a trap of like just struggling with an asset or something and forget that you can ask questions. And yeah, I found have you guys found that there's like maybe a technique or something you can say to someone that can usually encourage them a lot, or just maybe something that can help get them going with something with an asset? Or
Um, I usually try to like talk it through with them in terms of like just like what's blocking them. Just try to make them talk through it, and we can kind of just like look at it together and try to figure out a game plan. Um, Usually I find that kind of is kind of a good way because like sometimes it can just have like a little weird mental block about it, or there's just like something that they're getting snagged on, and then talking it through and looking at it together usually helps.
Yeah, for me, it's like it's the same answer. Um, some other things that have worked for me seem to be uh, if you're if you're reacting to their content, like what they're, you do like a daily update on like, oh, this is what I'm working on, or you post like a daily email or something showing like your progress, or however you end up showing content to your lead or your seniors, and getting some positive feedback as well as like some constructive stuff kind of keeps the steam moving and gives you stuff to refocus on either smaller tasks inside of the bigger task. It's like, oh, I need to work on like making sure the grime on this is the right amount. Like maybe it's too little, and then you feel it's like micro achievements, right? So you feel a little bit better if you can do something small like that while working on this big asset, that you see a reinforcement of positive feedback from it, and then you get the constructive stuff as well. That I see that giving you a little bit more steam for like a longer task, or being able to pull steam out of thin air.
Yeah, I think these little accomplishments is something that I found actually works pretty well as well. So if I have like someone under me, just be like, oh yeah, you did really good with this thing. I think this worked really well. Try to do a little bit more of this, and just getting them in that mentality of like these little things that they did that worked really well. Gets them sort of excited about the asset or whatever they're working on. Yeah, I agree with that a lot.
Yeah, because sometimes some juniors can feel that like anything they're doing is bad.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
kind of get that mindset, and it's like, no, dude, like this part is like really good, and there's just this part that's kind of like lacking, so I just need to focus on that. And then after sometimes I remember them saying, they're like, oh, like okay, it's good to know, because I just thought everything was bad, and I was like, no, it's not all bad.
That's quite normal too, right?
Yeah,
Everything I'm doing is terrible.
So I mean, sometimes for a long time, like especially if you're like in blackout land or like first pass mode, like stuff will look ugly for a long time before it starts getting good, right?
Oh, dude, that last 5%.
Yeah.
You're like, what is this thing? What is happening? And then it comes together in like the last,
It's like the last 5% that pushes the asset like 50%.
Yeah, it's crazy. Watching people get used to that is interesting. Like seeing a bunch of interns and juniors join a project and shipping their first game, and you can see, and you're trying to help them manage the stress, because what they're looking at and what you're looking at are two different things, right? Because you've gone through it. And so they're like, dude, this game is not coming together at all. Like, what's happening? Everything's broken. It's crashing all the time. I was like, it's okay, man.
Well, there's errors.
Yeah, all the errors.
It's part of the process. Cool. It's just getting them used to kind of working in passes as well. It's like, because I feel like sometimes people have the expectation that like, oh, you just come in and then you're just making final stuff all the time, but it's like, no, it's like we're going in passes because we need to like work with design and make sure it's all good, and it's like it's incremental.
Yeah, you don't want to finalize something and then it gets cut, and you're like, well,
gotta change everything.
Yeah, now I have to reblock it out.
That actually brings up I think I have a question about that. Say if you've got someone that tends to work a little bit too past gray box or white box or however you call it at your respective studios. Like they get a task to gray box an asset and they're really pushing into final art. How do you sort of bring them back to like, hey, actually, just bring it back, make it a little bit simpler, because there's going to be iteration. You're going to have to rework some things. Have you guys found that there's anything that works well for that?
On my end, it's like you build it into the task. So the tasks are designed to end at certain stages, and then you're just making sure that that's what's happening. I don't know, maybe I don't know if that's normal.
No, that's a good way for sure. On Star Wars, when I had like a junior under me, like generally, like I was handling a lot of like kind of the blackout and proxy stuff, and I would kind of just give them stuff to like kind of either final or kind of get to a certain point before we kind of come back to it. So usually so I'd block something out, give it to my junior, and then usually I'd tell them to kind of bring it to like kind of almost 80% there, where like it doesn't have to be quite final, just because we kind of need to see how everything sits together and kind of do a bit more of set dressing and kind of see like what we really need to focus on, right? So yeah, I'd kind of just get them used to like, okay, we got to work in passes, so like just treat this as like not quite final, so just get it to a certain point, and then after that we'll like towards the end we'll kind of get a chance to kind of do multiple passes on stuff that we need. So that's where you kind of really final it.
The final it.
Yeah.
I hope the assets and shipped games say final.
Yeah.
Final V2.
No, I think yeah, it is really about like, I think if you're keeping track of your team, I don't think someone will sit there and spin on an asset long enough to get it past
Yeah.
a certain state. So
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
know. I guess I haven't really felt like that was too much of a worry.
Yeah, same. Like, I kind of just build it into a schedule where, like, if I say, like, oh, this week you're working on an area or an asset or whatnot, like, I just say, like, okay, this is, like, second pass, and then you have to think that we're going to do a third pass, like, a couple weeks down the line once we're kind of at the polish stage. So,
Yeah, I did have a question for you both, actually. Like giving all this feedback to juniors and just like managing a team. I don't know how many artists you had at your respective studios, but how has that helped you guys as artists yourself and just growing to the roles you're at now?
Wait, what do you mean?
Because obviously you're going from a regular artist, for example, to a senior or a lead, and that comes with extra responsibilities of managing a team and stuff like that. So how has that helped you grow in your career? Like,
Oh,
what are
man.
some useful things that you've picked up from just giving feedback on a regular basis, things like that?
Being able to broad feedback is interesting. Like you know how like when you work on an asset and you're supposed to look at it from like the big picture, and then as you start to polish it, you get into the smaller details. And it's the same with like feedback. If you can look at like broad feedback first and then let them know like, yeah, it's just, we're going to look at it in a broad way. It's
Yeah.
much easier for them to start thinking in that way as well.
that's a good
And
point.
it feels much better being able to think in that way, because then you feel like you're not having to poke at every single little small thing.
It's good to contextualize, like, where their asset's going to be, how it's going to be used as well.
Yeah.
Just because, like, you're like, okay, like, you don't need to kind of just go into the micro details because, like, say this thing there, we're not really ever going to get close to it, so you don't have to, like, go as crazy, right? So really, that definitely helps, I think. It definitely helps though in terms of like being able to give that feedback, and it kind of just helps develop your eye for detail, right? And like knowing what to focus on.
Yeah.
So just like as you get more reps doing that for other people, you kind of apply to your own work as well, and so it all kind of feeds in together.
I guess it
man.
also helps time management, your own time management, a lot more, right? Like you're managing all this team and how they get to a certain point in an asset, and then you actually start applying that more and more to your own work, and you kind of just can really understand at what point you are in your own work and how to take it further. At least I found that worked a lot for me.
Yeah. The other thing too is like making sure that you're giving enough time, like feedback time for every person in your team. So if you have like, I don't know, six, 8 artists, and you need to give each one of them some level of feedback, whether it be like verbal or like some red pens where you're drawing on like a image. You need to be able to make sure that you can fulfill the needs that they all have. Like maybe the team is too large if you can't, or maybe you need to like scale down the way that you're feedbacking and what you're focusing on, so that you don't like miss a beat, I guess. It's the best way to put it.
Yeah, making sure to have that kind of buffer time to address it as well, or if not,
Mhm.
like maybe it goes to like a bug later down the line, right?
So something else we wanted to talk about a bit is with kind of advancing your career. So when you start off at junior and you work your way up, you guys have gone through kind of several stages of progressing your career. Is there anything that you kind of have to be conscious of or think about when planning to kind of go up, or anything to watch out for, anything you particularly did to kind of progress through different stages, and also to further that kind of about what are you looking at to go to next, or where's kind of the next steps in your career you're hoping to go, and how are you kind of planning to get there?
That's a big one to unpack. You want to?
You're gonna throw it to Joby first. Like, I need to think.
Tell us what you want to do for the next 10 years.
What's the plan?
Where do you want to be?
Well, I guess it's a natural transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you go to senior, Joby?
For me, I feel like the key thing is to kind of be proactive about anything you do. Because like when you're a senior, you're kind of just like expected to like have like much less hand holding and kind of have like less to go on and be able to deliver on stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me, it's always been like, yeah, be proactive in terms of like seeking out your feedback as when you're when you're a junior, seeing out your feedback. Like if you need to be like working with design, like kind of like don't wait for them to come to you. Like kind of just get that back and forth going yourself. And then just kind of like you almost have to be already doing the job for when they're like considering you for a promotion or whatnot, right? Like you can
That's
kind of
such
say
a
that, like,
common thing I hear.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I've been already doing this for a while, and it's like they're like, okay, yeah, it's like no brainer. That's a big thing, I'd say.
Yeah. It's
What about studio to studio then? Like if you leave, I don't know, Ubisoft as an environmentized and you're hired as a senior, surely that's pretty like thrown in the deep end.
you mean like a title bump via switching studio?
Yeah.
I mean, now when I look back at it, it is the fastest way to climb. But looking back at it, I think you miss out on a lot of like internal growth that occurs in studio culture and like how you develop as a game developer and not just an artist, by actually being there for the time of shipping some games.
I've actually got the
yeah.
opposite question to that, which is if you get, like, say you're a senior and you get hired as a mid, how do you deal with that sort of step back, right? Because it does happen a fair bit,
Yeah.
or at least I think
That
it
actually
does.
happened to me.
Oh, really? Going from Seattle to Massive?
Yeah, so when I
He's
applied,
still upset.
it just cracks me up because I clearly wasn't reading the fine print. I don't know. No, I mean, I applied because I thought I was like, oh man, this is like a great opportunity to like actually travel as well and just experience another studio, and the project looked really cool. And so, I mean, so I applied, right? And after the process of trying to get the job, I got it, and then actually realized that it literally was a mid-level position, not a senior position. And so I was like, well, all right, whatever, let's do it. And then my goal once I got into the studio was to make sure that I had a roadmap for how I could climb with my lead at the time, how I could climb and check boxes off with my own skill and experience to get the senior title back. Because in the end, I mean, especially in Sweden, title does not mean anything other than lack of development experience time. Like you'll still have good ideas or interesting ideas, and most likely they're thinking more outside of the box if you're newer to game development.
That's an important thing too. Like get with your lead on that stuff as well. Like kind of once you reach a certain point, you're kind of comfortable with the studio. It's like talk about a development plan with them and like ask what they're expecting of like as from a senior, and like what boxes are you ticking, what do you need to still develop. Like that's an important thing too. Like don't expect them that they'll just kind of like do it on their own and kind of know that you want to keep moving forward or whatnot. Just kind of always make it known, communicate. That's pretty important.
Yeah, owning something is key to becoming a senior, I think.
Oh yeah, whether it's a small area or a whole map. Yep.
Yeah, and if you can help take on like a because when you're a senior, right, you'll take on an intern or a junior and help them get going. If you're already doing that, or if you're not and you want to become a senior, you should probably start trying to support someone new, or if an intern comes in, offer yourself up as like support for the new person
I
coming
guess
in.
that comes with that proactiveness that we talked about too, right?
Definitely, yeah.
So what are the main differences then from a senior and a lead? Because obviously we'll have listeners that might want to transition to a lead position but not know what it kind of potentially entails, like the extra paperwork, I guess.
Or scheduling.
Just less artwork, I imagine.
It is less artwork, or it's more like looking at the broad picture. For me, like what I am enjoying about being a lead so far, I'm pretty fresh to it. It's like 5 months or 6 months, something like that. For me, it's being able to go. This sounds super weird. I like meetings, so I like to go to a meeting that has the goal of coming up with an answer that will take my art team and propel them forward, right? And if a decision needs to be made in that meeting, that's my goal. Or to get an answer from that meeting that will allow me to unblock the artists that are on my team so that they can, I just want the artists that are on my team to be able to just go nuts. And if I can tell that they're not being able to, that's when I need to start like pushing to try and figure out, okay, well, how do we get the answers to unblock them or to push them to their next level? But yeah, I don't know if does that answer your question? I just started going on like a tirade.
Go for it, man. Like
I want to
welcome.
I want to push. Yeah. No, I enjoyed it a lot though.
So biggest differences, yeah, like you definitely have to keep the big picture in mind, as Jeremy said. Like it's a big thing. Like at UB before I left, I was like a lead for like vegetation stuff there, and that was kind of like a 3-prong role of like, yeah, just kind of being a lead stuff and like helping run reviews and kind of make sure everyone's like on the right schedule and kind of doing a bit of work myself, kind of some tech stuff as well. But it's you're definitely doing a lot more, but still kind of doing a little bit of work in the same time, depending on the studio. So it's just a big balancing act in that sense.
Yeah. Also, just making sure that what people are producing. I guess for me, if I want to work on art a little bit, because it's pretty toned down at the office for me, and it's just like maybe taking someone's content, making some adjustments on it, and seeing like if what I'm about to give them feedback on is actually makes sense. And then I try it myself, and maybe I'll even use that as like an image example. I'm saying, I didn't change your stuff.
Yeah,
you can go for it.
Dials,
yeah.
Just redo all that work.
Yeah.
Generally, no.
Just make it like this, and then.
So on that note, what are your thoughts on principal artists then? Because I imagine from senior, you can transition to lead or more towards like a principal artist. Like if someone's about to make that step, like what kind of advice would you have for that person?
If you want more art, if you want to keep making art, you want to own more stuff and maybe get even bigger art pieces, like the person that gets tossed the big hero assets,
Be the principal artist.
You want to be the principal artist. If you want to help make sure that a whole team is moving smoothly, then you want to be a lead.
Yeah, because a principal artist, you'll see that as a kind of like a reference for the team in a way, where like, yeah, people can kind of look to that work, kind of like help set the bar or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Without having to do the management part, because like
sounds amazing.
Because most studios it's like this at Massive, but like I guess principal artist is almost kind of like on the same level as a lead, but just without the management component.
Right. Yeah, and they'll be
Jeremy
doing more
loves
like
a meeting, so
dude, I mean,
work for him.
So what's great is like if you can have like a principal artist next to you as a lead, so you're a lead and then you've got a principal artist on your team, you can give them the things that you can point to for the rest of your team to help unblock them or give them guidance where like concept art may not be able to put enough time onto it to answer for them, or art direction has given enough info that you feel that it's there, but it's still not clear enough to the team, and just giving it to a principal artist and watching them just go nuts with it, and then showing the whole team, you set the style or the standard, and everyone else kind of pushes that direction. But
how would someone go about getting themselves, if they wanted to be a principal artist? Because we talked a little bit about what you could do kind of to go towards more of a lead or senior role, but if you wanted to be a principal artist, what kind of things do you need to show?
Be amazing.
I mean, if you're
I'm gonna guess.
I think
it just happens, right? Yeah. Workflows being set. You're kind of like organizing stuff, but you're not necessarily managing people. If you like to set workflows, doing that, as well as like making sure that everyone around you, like, oh, you need to be using these type of detail normal maps, or like if you're kind of managing in a sense, but you're not a lead, you're probably going more into the principal or like expert route.
Yeah, kind of just like helping set the standard for stuff, like documenting it or communicating it to the team. Yeah, just like again trying to just be a reference for like a certain kind of type of workflow or style or whatnot, and kind of help drive that to like the whole team, not just for yourself.
It's like another senior as well, right? Because like seniors will be expected to grab the juniors or the interns and help them understand stuff, whereas like a junior, like more mid-level, will be looking to the principal artist and the lead for information, and then seniors will be looking at the principal artist as well.
I guess another thing you can do is you can ask your art director or whatever to be setting, like, I want to set visual targets for this and for these areas, and I want to be the guy that people come to if they want to know how to do something exactly the best they can do, right?
Definitely.
That's probably one of the most important things for principal artists is setting those visual targets.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to have a principal artist and just record some like workflow thing that they started doing. I'm like, oh man, everyone should be like at least seeing this and seeing if it'll help them with their flow.
Put a position on a website, man. See if you can find someone.
On the topic of
Join.
workflows, have you ever had a time where you or someone you know kind of had a workflow that you'd been testing or you'd read about online, and you're like, this could really, really help improve kind of the way we work in the studio? How did you kind of go about trying to introduce that, or how have you seen someone kind of go about trying to convince people to adopt some new scary technology that might kind of improve everyone's workflows?
Ooh,
Tough one.
yeah. I mean, that's again, I think that's where the principal artist comes in, because they'll be the ones that are like inventing these new ways of working, or like this new way to like create content, right? Or like they'll see it online, or the lead will see someone will see it online, and it's already kind of causing enough buzz that chat at work is already talking about it. You're like, how are we going to do that? And then principal artist is like, oh, it's just like this and this, or someone will figure it out, and then you can either let them own it or have them start talking to someone else inside of the team, and then see if that just kind of, if that can snowball into a video being made or a quick demo for the team in like a planned meeting or something like that.
Just getting the team excited about it.
Yeah.
Like the benefits of it. Yeah, I can't say that I've gone to do that quite yet. I've kind of like maybe done that stuff for like kind of myself or whatnot, like coming into a new team and like realizing there's some better ways of approaching things and kind of just like proving it out and executing on it. But I haven't had the chance yet to like say introduce it to the whole team. So
I think more often, at least for me, has been less of a situation where I just found something online, I think it's great, and I think we should adopt it. And it's more of like, for example, the art director wants us to work on a new location. This new location has a lot of vegetation. So it's like, all right, Luan, look at the vegetation and see what you can do about it. And it's about me finding new ways of making that process faster for the company and save more money and just better for us in terms of quality, right? So it's more like I have a specific task to make this thing. How can I make it better? Rather than be going like, oh guys, look at Houdini. We should be using Houdini for something.
yeah, I
That's
think
great.
you need to be practical.
Definitely.
And actually show how it can be useful, because yeah, a video can kind of be all nice and thing, but like without the practicality and like how it can apply to production, it's like yeah. Now that I think of it, like for Star Wars, like one thing that kind of helped push a little bit was like I really want to try out like the more face weighted normal approach to stuff. So just try to do away with like macro normals as much as possible, and just going with like the face weighted stuff that like Star Citizen was using a lot in Alien Isolation. And then
I think I know that workflow.
yeah, and then I just ended up like kind of proving it out during our like vertical slice phase, where like the area that I worked on was particularly hard surface, so I just kind of built that whole area kind of with that in mind, and ended up being adopted pretty widespread across the project from there.
On a side note, man, having used well, we call it custom normals here, right? Having used custom normals for like 4 years now,
Yeah.
I just, for hard surface, I just can't bake anymore, man. It's just so much.
It's nice
so
not
much
having to bake.
crisper. It is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's heavier on geometry, but oh man, It's nicer. It's so much nicer for me.
Hmm.
Man, I don't remember the last time I wasn't using that. I think
Well,
I
You
you
just
just,
weren't.
cover it.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude. It's like, wait, you can do what? So having that and then switching to Moto was what made me really excited about like being able to bake with the round edge shader,
Yes.
because you do the face weighted normals and then wherever you want that round edge, like those really tight bevels, or like where the convex or the concave bevels, you just turn it on in the shader, and then you just make sure that the UVs are broken there and there's a hard edge, and it's always there. You're like,
Uh-huh.
what is this magic?
It's good that the tools and kind of stuff's pushing forward, I guess, because it's just going to help make better art for games and remove that kind of barrier of technical limitations. Hopefully, it'll be
Yeah,
good for everyone.
yeah. I'm trying to think of like, because we're talking about a lot of the like structure of going from like intern to all the way to like lead or principal artist. I think the best way, if you're like, no matter where you're at in that chain, the best way to try and move forward is, of course, being proactive and performing your job, right? But making sure that your lead and the people around you, it's mainly your lead. Just make sure that they know what your goals are for the year and maybe for like the next 5. Most of the time, it's just that year, because not very many people stay at a studio for longer than like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and like most studios, like big studios at least, you'll have like kind of annual reviews. So
Mm-hmm.
like you go over that a lot of that stuff where you kind of set your goals and try to hit them for the next review and kind of go from there.
Yep,
Yeah.
review those goals and you're good.
I think one thing that worked pretty well for me is outside of the annual reviews is just asking my lead, hey, can we have like a 101, just 20 minutes meeting room? Let's just chat. I just want to see where I'm at, see what I can improve. Things like here's what I want in I don't know a year's time, and just give me advice on what I can do that. So just like actually actively asking for those meetings rather than waiting for your lead to be like, hey, do you want to talk?
Yeah, just giving it a platform.
That's good. I think Yubi's actually pretty good with that, right? You guys kind of try to do it monthly or bi-monthly.
Yeah, I do. So I do a monthly. When I first started, I was like, I'll just leave a window of opportunity every week. But then I felt like I was bugging him too much, so I'm like, no, we'll just do it once a month, and know that like even though we're on an open floor, my door is always open.
My chair is always open.
My chair is always
Available.
swivelable, like it's fine. But yeah, one-on-ones are really good.
Yeah, it's.
Are they open to just Ubisoft employees, or can we all enroll?
My moderators on the Empire have one-on-ones.
On the
They just
Discord?
turn up at your office? Or
Better
just-
become a moderator of the Empire.
Yeah.
then.
I think that'd be a breach of contract, no?
Now, I actually wanted to ask, with the like growing in the studio, as you said, like no matter where you are, intern, senior, lead, whatever it is, how does personal work impact that? Like, if someone's doing personal work all the time, are they just naturally going to progress much quicker than the people at the studio who just do the work?
Oh, that's a tricky question.
Because the way I'm thinking about it is the like in-house tools are so proprietary. Like, you're becoming a senior at that studio,
Oh yeah.
building what they need, whereas personal work is personal. So just wanted to hear your thoughts on that, because you guys have both been leads.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum, where like I've been pretty bad with personal work actually. Like like when I joined Ubisoft like 10 years ago, that was probably like the last time that I did personal work right before then, and then I just recently did like a personal piece like earlier this year, and that was like the first one in a while.
Do you feel like it's because you're getting more time?
Partly yeah. Like I had just like rolled off the project and had more time and stuff like that. Yeah, because like usually I just try to give as much to the project as I can, like when I'm in it. Like, and usually when I get home, I'm just like kind of tired and just want to do something else, not be on the
time to
computer.
game.
Yeah, time to game, cook, whatever. So yeah, generally, like, if I am gonna do stuff at home, it's maybe to test out a new workflow for that production specifically, or for that task that I'm working on. But it's not necessarily something I'll be posting online, right? Because it's like kind of production related a little bit.
Mm.
So at best, that's kind of what I do. But yeah, but I've still kind of progressed fine and from
Yeah, I
there,
mean,
right?
you get a little bit of progression just by watching other people as well. But I would say if you're like an intern or a junior, don't expect, you have to be able to take off the student gauntlets of portfolio and just remove those so that you're not working on your portfolio constantly, because now you have a job, because you're just now you're trying to fulfill the ability to have a job, but you already have one.
That's a good point. Yeah, like when I think about it, when I was in school, I was like working so much.
Yeah.
Like it's like just working on personal work or school work or whatnot, just doing so much. Almost maybe.
I think
probably
it comes.
more than- How's that work?
I think it comes back to people just they don't want to get left behind, like fear of missing out. You don't want.
There's the fear of
Do
missing
personal
out.
work. You're like shit. Like I'm not gonna stay up to date, but like you're in the industry, like you said, so nothing to worry about.
Yeah, what mid-level to senior, there's a FOMO moment, right? Where you're like, oh man, I don't like, everyone that's coming into the studio that's like new are faster than me. They're making better looking art. What is happening?
I guess it also applies to maybe if you want to go elsewhere, because you get good at the, like you said, Kim, the in-house tools and all that stuff. And I think that's what progresses you more than just being doing your personal work. But I guess if you want to apply to a different studio, or like you're just fancying a change, I guess that's the time that people tend to work on their portfolios a bit more and their personal work. But I've found, at least at CIG, that your personal work doesn't really affect your progression like whatsoever.
Yeah, and I mean when you start in a new studio too, like you have like most studios will kind of give you that ramp up time to get used to things, and it's like I feel like a lot of your skills and proactiveness and all that stuff kind of like ports over, and you just kind of get used to a new tool set. At the end of the day, it's just tools, right? Um, like yeah, even kind of switching from like kind of Star Wars to Apex, like I went from kind of working just in 3ds Max to like Maya on Apex or whatnot, and it's like I hadn't touched it in like almost 10 years. But
oh, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How long was your transition?
I mean,
one day.
no, definitely a couple months. It took a few tasks to kind of get used to it, but it's yeah. At the end of the day, it's just tools. Like I think your core skill set and your eye for detail, stuff like that, like all that stuff translates over. And you just find different ways of doing it.
So I have a question for you guys. If it's a little bit more to do with hiring, but if you're wanting to apply elsewhere and you have a lot of professional work on your portfolio, do you think that you should have maybe get a couple more personal pieces in there, or do you think that the professional work will do the job of getting you hired elsewhere?
Depends.
It does depend, yeah.
Yeah, it really depends on like the type of professional work, right? Like depends on the type and the quality. Like for example, like say like you just worked on like stylized games for the last 5 years, and then you're kind of applying to a more realistic studio, right? That might be a harder sell. So like if you don't have like kind of some more realistic work to kind of help complement it. But yeah.
It depends where you're applying as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like with like if you're at a realistic studio, like realistic games, and then you're going to like a stylized studio, they will probably ask you why you're doing that, like, because like you clearly in your portfolio don't seem to care about stylized art, right? But then there's things like, is your experience gone far enough? Like with me having a lead position, I'm not sure, like if I was to apply to an indie studio, for example, as a lead, like, do I even need to be showing, maybe I should be showing the stuff that I'm interested in, or like how engaged I am in communities. And It's
So,
kind of particular to like where you're applying and what position you're going for.
so just to follow up on that, then, like, if, like, hypothetically speaking, if you were both applying for, I don't know, Nintendo with the current portfolios you have, what would you change, or what do you think's missing, like, to make sure you stood your chance? Because, like you said, you've both got loads of ship titles, actually. Like, Jesus Christ.
Do we?
Looking now, like, that's a lot. But because you tick the boxes for experience, you tick it for like ship tiles, all that stuff. But it sounds like there's still something else that you'd both be missing, which
Oh
is
yeah, I think
the
at that
stylized
point
work. So,
you would need some art to show like, hey, I'm enjoying doing this stuff, and it's also, I mean, that's maybe what blogs are for at that point. And then if you finish anything to get it going in,
You think
in your
maybe just
portfolio.
one piece, like one Nintendo style piece, will do the job? Like, hey, look, I really like
just
this.
one really good piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause I
Yeah,
think
you'd
that'd be
need at
important
least
to show.
that.
By the way, we're from Nintendo and we're looking to hire.
Oh man. Well, sorry, I don't have any Nintendo like art
Yeah.
on my portfolio.
No
rip.
stylized, sorry. But yeah, no, that'd be the big thing for that, because like I think both our portfolios are just all pretty realistic, right? So it's like
Yeah,
you need at
Especially
least that one
Nintendo
piece.
would be real particular.
that was the first one that came to mind, but you know where I was going with that. Hopefully,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to
it
think.
sounds like it just sounds like if you're doing a big shift, like sometimes your portfolio can be almost a hindrance for the most part. If you have loads of ship titles that are realistic or stylized, then you wanted to do a big change, like massively.
Yeah, I mean, I got questioned about like why I wanted to work on Division when I
Really?
was the last game I worked on was Forza, and then the games before that were all Lord of the Rings. And they're like, "Well, why do you want to?" They questioned it because I mean, I didn't have anything that was ultra realistic shooter type art.
Yeah. So
Well,
how did
do
you
answer that question?
What did you say, if you can say?
Oh, I just was like, game looked cool. I want to work on it. I'm a really bad example because I don't really go into interviews prepared. I like to go in blind.
Really?
I do
Yeah,
that as well.
It's an
yeah.
experience.
Like
Damn, dude.
I like to go
No,
in
but
blind. Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
does come with experience, because I do that maybe for the last year now. Like I maybe look the company up, look at the games, and that's it. Like I'll just
Straight YOLO that
freestyle
interview.
for the most part. It just feels more natural, no?
Yeah, I want them to
I'm
know
kinda
who I
opposite on
am.
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For me, I'm like, I have like basically like a little notebook for like any interviews that has like basically all the interviews I've done in it, and
Oh,
like
that's
just
sick.
That's
So,
a
like-
great idea.
I
That's
So,
that.
like,
amazing.
yeah, it's kind of nice because like then like for future interviews I can always just kind of like look through that and kind of like see the questions I asked.
Did I
'Cause
really say
I
this?
You could sell that to a student for big bucks.
just notebook.
It's like
Yeah,
10
yeah.
grand.
So I typically, at least because a big thing for me, like when I'm interviewing people or when I'm interviewing, like I think it's important to like ask questions about the studio, about the project as much as they can say. So I don't know. I personally, I always like to come prepared with that stuff, where I just basically have like a couple pages of questions that I may or may not ask. So yeah, I always definitely feel like a little bit of a dork when I just like pull out my little notebook and I'm like, all right, question time.
I like
That's
it,
awesome,
man.
though.
I think
Yeah,
it's
no, that's
great.
cool. That's really cool.
Me and Jeremy don't have a notebook. We're like just
No, I just am
nothing,
like,
go for it.
okay, I'm applying to the studio. I know what the studio is, right? I know what games they work on, and then I'm like, let's see who I run into in this interview.
So,
Free flow.
say you guys were like applying for each other's job. Is your current portfolio enough? Would you say?
I don't know. You tell me, Jeremy.
Oh man, oh that's such a good question. I'm like actually in the middle of like trying to find the portfolios again.
I'll
I'm scrolling
drop
through
the
it
link.
right now. Oh here, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I can never find my own portfolio either.
Are you good enough at making pork chops? I guess that's the real question.
I mean, yeah, pork chops.
No, I mean Jeremy's portfolio is like super solid.
Oh man, I need to update so much crap.
And there's no Forza on your portfolio, dude.
Yeah,
You're
you'd
hiding
have,
stuff.
You'd have no problem.
But I mean, what I like about your portfolio is like how like uniform your thumbnails are. I get real picky about that stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know why. like,
It's
like why is the Apex logo off by just like 5 pixels? I'm freaking out now.
See you with the magnifying glass over there, dude.
It must be because it's on this giant monitor. No, it's like on the edge of the screen. So like right now it's because it's in the peripheral. Maybe I'm skewing it. Who knows? Maybe I need glasses. Maybe.
No, presentation's important. Like, yeah, I think it's always good to like brand any of your images, like just for like the game logo, but also like your own stuff. Just got to make it easy for people to like find you in case they save off your image, right?
Yeah. Although when you're both, because you both do interviews and look at tons of portfolios, like, do you look for all of the professional work, like for example, all of the Apex and the Jedi Fallen all the work, or do you go straight to the personal work if they have it there?
You want to take that first?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I skew one way or the other. I think like I'm gonna see like personal work, and that's like a nice to have. If they have it, it's cool. And like I might even like ask a bit more questions about it. Like one interview question I love asking is that like usually more for juniors more so than seniors, but if you have personal work, I'll definitely ask it. Is like, so if you were to go back to like a piece on your thing, like what would you improve on it?
Oh, that question, man.
Classic.
Yeah, it's like it's nice because like yeah, it just kind of just shows how self-critical someone can be of their work and like what they would be improving. Like it's almost like a red flag for me if like someone like looks back on something and they're like, oh, maybe I'll tweak this little thing, and they don't really say much, and you're just like, we could just rattle off a list right now.
Dude, I'm looking at this pork chop that you worked on.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty serious. that's pretty hardcore. I'm like, whoa.
That's a pretty sexy pork chop.
Yeah, man, I'd eat it.
Well, we'll include the link to the pork chop in the description if anyone's interested.
And the recipe.
Directly.
Make sure that you have access
that was a
to
fun
that.
one. That was actually one of those examples of like something where I was like, okay, I just wanted to try out like a photogrammetry workflow, and like I tried that out at home versus like at work.
So how much time did you spend on that pork chop?
I mean, maybe all in, probably like a day's worth of work. Like between cooking it and scanning it.
True. Part there.
So it was actual baking of
yeah.
Yeah.
Two kinds of baking.
Yeah,
no, probably a day all in between everything, like cooking it, like testing out the photogrammetry stuff, baking it, marmoset, and all that.
That looks juicy.
Looks juicy. It's so true, man. I can just imagine my dog stealing it from me immediately.
And then you have no dinner.
Yeah, so sad.
Job, you actually touched on something I kind of wanted to ask, which is what do you ask a senior in interviews? Like, what are some of the more senior questions that you can ask?
So I mean, definitely the one I talked about. So like, if they don't have personal work, I'll maybe ask it for one of like, I try to pick an older piece in their portfolio, probably their oldest one, and try to go over that. Because that just answers a lot of questions and kind of their mindset. But generally, I guess
their older piece. That's
yeah, man.
Man, I need to gut a bunch of stuff off my portfolio.
Shameful piece.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. But yeah, I guess for senior, I just want to see like how would they approach different situations. So like I'd maybe like give a hypothetical situation with like a level designer or something, and how they'd approach a problem. More open-ended questions like that, I'd say.
Definitely. Yeah, you want to know how they're going to respond to like, because stuff happens in the studio, right? Someone will be irritated about something, or things just aren't working in the direction for art, but they are for level design, or vice versa. And just seeing how they will manage a situation, not trying to like put them on the spot. Those types of questions, people worry that it's like, oh man, they're just trying to see like if I'll explode or not. It's like, no, man, it's just We
Yeah.
just want to know like how you would approach the situation.
Yeah, how you think, how you process
Yeah.
like issues, stuff like that. Like, yeah, or like you're even kind of going back on maybe past situations where like, oh, was there any like levels that you worked on in your portfolio that like pose any particular challenges? Like, how did you overcome them? Yeah, because that's questions like you can't necessarily ask as well for like juniors or whatnot that don't have that experience yet.
Yep. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's another. Yeah, it's all. I mean, at that point, you already know that if they're a senior, they've already shipped quite a bit of content, and they're probably more along the lines of like, you don't necessarily need to see or prove their art quality. It's more about just making sure that they're competent for that type of role.
Yeah, good personality fit within the team. Like,
Definitely.
if you can
Yeah.
picture yourself working with them easily.
Yeah, I would much rather hire like if I had two seniors that I was looking at, and one was I could tell would meld much better with the team than the other, but had a weaker portfolio, I might go with that one instead, because like that's someone you can work with, and like I don't know, maybe you can work on the issues that you maybe will point out in the interview with the portfolio.
Absolutely. I'm totally the same mindset for that, where like sometimes like someone may have like a super strong portfolio, but then they have like a bit of an attitude, and you can kind of feel that. And someone who maybe have not as good a portfolio, but is easier to work with, and I'd totally go with the latter in that case. They're easier to work with and mold and get used to.
On the kind of subject of people that might be a bit more difficult to work with, have you ever had a situation where you have had difficult either co-workers in your team or people from other departments that were a bit more stubborn or kind of difficult to work with, and how do you kind of approach the interactions with those people? Because presumably you've got to work with them every day, or you've got to interact with them frequently, and you're in a professional environment, so you can't just walk away and ignore them. So how do you kind of, I guess, get over the hurdle of dealing with people like that?
Okay, for me, so if I have someone that I'm working with that is difficult to work with, or they're having a hard time like dealing with me and the tasks I'm tossing their way, I think being able to understand what they like doing. If you don't know that, then you're already giving them tasks that they don't appreciate or enjoy doing, to the extent of like you're just pushing them further into like this zone of they're not happy. So you have a combination of going through your one-on-ones to make sure that this person's okay. Maybe it's a level designer, so you don't really have one-on-ones with them, but it's understanding who they are, what they enjoy, and why they want to make this game amazing, because then you can cater either the content you're making for them to be more in line with like letting them know that you agree with what they're saying, or that you're having their thoughts in your mind as well. You start to, it's kind of like giving out an olive branch. Like they seem, at least from my experiences, they seem to be more approachable or easier to work with. I've had people come up to me and go, "How did you get that person to to work with you?" And I was like, "Because I listened to them." I don't know. Like, it just seems natural to just understand the person. We all get irritated. It happens.
Yeah,
it's natural.
Sometimes you can have a day, and it's like, yeah, I remember sometimes you could be working with a level designer, and then like you might have an off day between the both of you, and it's kind of like a tense day in terms of like working together. And then you kind of just start talking later. You're like, oh man, yeah, sorry, I was like going through something that day, and it's like it was a bit short, and just kind of apologize to each other. Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's like,
It is tricky because there's not one.
it's so different from person to person.
Yeah.
What if you have someone that's really combative, like someone that just is easy to say, like someone that says no a lot, or obviously you know not in a way that it gets them into a disciplinary situation, but someone that's just really negative, but just doesn't want to take the feedback, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes
there's that.
because sometimes it depends on the person. Sometimes like it's a thing where like maybe they feel that like you need to prove yourself to them if like you've never worked with them before, and it's kind of just having to do that. Or sometimes like I think back on like this one situation with when my level designers on the first game where we were working on an area together, and then he was like, "Oh man, this cover to cover situation, we just can't make it work. It's impossible." It's like he was, and I was just like, "Well, it's like, dude, calm down. Like, we can figure this out."
We'll make
And then
it
it
work.
just, yeah. Well, he was kind of like over it. I could tell already. So I was just like, okay. And then so I just kind of tried like cobbling something together on my own and kind of play with it to kind of show him that it could work. And so it made it work. Kind of showed it to him, and he's like, "Oh shit, yeah, that totally works." And I was, and then he was like, "I was like losing it earlier," and I was like, "Yeah, like we just have to, just maybe sometimes you just need a different eye for something." Or
Yeah, just remember to everyone can lift each other up as well.
Your-
Like
your
maybe
team-
that person just hasn't been lifted in a while, and it's just been building up.
I guess the most common example of like being stubborn though comes down to maybe workflow. Like maybe someone joins your studio from like another studio and they're just not gelling with some of the workflows that you guys have, and it's just not working for them. Like that, I feel like that could lead to some difficult situations or just stubbornness, even from seniors at times where they're like, this doesn't make sense. I don't know why we're doing it like this, but that's just the way you guys do it.
Yeah, I've run into that sometimes. It's like sometimes like it's those situations suck a bit sometimes. Where like
Yeah, that's a real tough one.
yeah, because like I know like one time on Far Cry Primal when I was kind of like technical levelers on that, so I was like kind of trying to ease workflow stuff with people as much as I could, but then we're also just like a support studio, so like we're still definitely limited in what we can kind of push and improve. So it's like frustrating sometimes where like people are complaining about stuff and you're understanding them and like you totally get it too, but there's still just not much you can kind of do. You know what you can kind of push and pull, but sometimes what like some workflow stuff they bring up, they're like, yeah, well, we're kind of stuck with it. We can't really push more forward than what we have. That always sucks, but yeah, part of it sometimes.
Comes with the job.
I think, and I'm trying to think of how you manage that, because sometimes it's just a bumpy ride, and maybe in some cases they just won't fit because of that. And in other cases they'll work through it. The best thing you can do for someone that's coming in and maybe doesn't gel with the workflow is listen to how they did it before and see if you can bridge that gap and like point it in your direction where it kind of is the same thing, or like, oh yeah, we used to do it like this, or yeah, you make it relatable. And so that it's a smaller shift than a complete like, yeah, you did change studios, and yes, this is a completely different workflow, but maybe it's not as like foreign as you think it might be. Just through showing, you can break that ice a little bit more, maybe.
All right, so I think it's time for some Patreon questions.
All right, these scare me. It just sounds like
very
all right, let's go.
Bonus round.
So yeah, first one from Peter. So he's mostly targeting this for Jobye, but hopefully Jeremy you'll have something again about this. But he's asking, how is it to work on two games from completely different genres? So the example he gave here is Jedi Fallen Order being a single player story driven third person game, and Apex being a first person battle royale multiplayer game. Very different kind of genre wise. How was it to kind of work on both of those and adjust to the differences and nuances of those games?
It's honestly not too bad. Like, because I feel like I've done it a couple times now in my career, jumping between different franchises and different games. There's definitely like, first is just kind of like level of fidelity in terms of like what you're doing. Like, will definitely change and getting used to that. So like between like a third person single player game, which is like super narrative focused, like you can kind of put much more love, much more detail. But then going to like say a battle royale, it's like you need to tone that down a little bit just for performance constraints and memory and all that. So you just kind of like learn how to balance your details better and kind of learn what's important, and you kind of learn that as you go. Like for me, like on Apex, the biggest thing was like just learning how much more design forward it is, and how much more you have to like kind of keep in mind the gameplay even more so than a single player. So like cover is pretty key, and like knowing how to balance that, and how to balance noise, how to balance like just like the different consideration of BR is like, oh, you see everything from up top at first, right? So you need to have like a really clean read of any areas you're working on. So you always have to look at it from different angles, where like up close, but then also from up high. So you just gradually learn how to sort through like the context of what you're working on, and it takes a couple months. Honestly, it takes a while. It's not something that you get used to instantly in the first week. And I don't think that's expected either. So it's a process.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like, so I went from
You went from racing.
Yeah, I went from a racing game, right? And before that was like Lord of the Rings third person games.
That's
And
a big
so
shift.
oh man, there's all types of like thinking about detail as you race by stuff versus like oh yeah, I'm gonna fly past that. It was like 120 miles an hour, but then I go into work on Division, and it's like, okay, we're gonna be like walking through this space and looking at everything really closely, and everything's like high detail. And honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with making sure that there's really good documentation on like getting you ready for those changes, so that you know, like, okay, this is how this works. These are the level of detail that we tend to work with.
Yep.
There's like a guide or guidelines.
I guess
to
that
help
principal artist can really help there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
usually where they come from.
even if you don't have that, like say on Apex, like we totally didn't have any that kind of documentation. I think what's really useful is just going through existing levels, existing content, and kind of just like breaking it down yourself and kind of getting a feel for it. That's typically how I do that. If
Yeah.
that's not there, and that's always a good way, I think. And like even definitely looking at like the principal artist's work and kind of see how they're doing approaching stuff. So yeah, it's definitely.
I mean, that's a perfect opportunity where someone that's even a senior should be comfortable asking questions to a junior or a mid-level that's been on that project for like a year or two.
Absolutely,
right? Because they're gonna know the answer.
Yeah, no, like especially when you come into a fresh project like that, like like people under you will know better, and it's just kind of picking their brain. And honestly, like asking questions and looking up stuff online, it's something that even junior, senior, principal, like you'll always be doing that. So like, don't ever think that like that stops. Like once you reach a certain point, it's like
always questions, always learning.
Yeah,
non-stop.
Brilliant. And the other question that we have, also from Peter, he's asking about with regard to moving to a different country, and the kind of process of how have you approached that in terms of like visa and arranging things, or things you wish you knew before you did it, that kind of stuff. Obviously, Jeremy, you moved from America to Sweden, so
yeah,
big move.
from Canada to the US.
Yeah. Is like I'm curious about the Canada to US thing, because like is it quite a bit different?
It seems like it's a bit harder than going to Europe. Like because from Canada to the US, there's definitely like a couple different visas you can use. Like there's the TN visa, which is specific to Canadians, which is a bit easier to get if assuming you have a degree from university. I didn't, so I ended up going the O1 route. So you usually have the choice between the O1, which is like the highly skilled worker visa, or the H1B, which is like a lottery one. So yeah, it's definitely a process. Like for mine, it took like almost 4 months to kind of get over to Monolith to get that process going.
I keep forgetting you're at Monolith.
yeah, we know a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it at that point you need to be like senior enough for sure. So like I I would never really try to kind of jump countries or whatnot if you don't have like a certain number of shipped games already and enough years experience, because that'll be a harder sell. Um, so yeah, it's a process, but it's definitely doable. And then even between companies, like you can, like say you go to a company on an O1, you can definitely kind of transfer it to another company after that. That's what ended up happening from Monolith to Respawn. That's a kind of a little known thing. I thought like you were kind of just stuck with one company once you had it, but it can definitely transfer.
I imagine there's still like a little process to it, right?
Yeah, because it's essentially applying for a new one, but because you already kind of have one, it's a bit quicker. So like say transferring from Monolith to Respawn, that took like less than a month and a half to get that going, versus the 4 months it took to get my initial visa.
That's awesome.
So do you think seniority? Asking this one out of genuine curiosity here as well, because maybe I'd quite like to work on the US at some point. But do you think seniority and sort of just years of experience really is the sort of way to go with O1, or do you think like
for the
like you
O1,
said, ship titles as well, right? But like say you work on something that's a live game that just constantly pushing updates.
yeah, I mean that would count. I think, like especially if it's like a really popular game. Because at the end of the day, for like say the O1, you have to like kind of show that like you've written articles or like worked on a like super popular game that has like a bunch of things where they talk about like its shipped units or number of players or whatnot. You have to like kind of provide all that stuff.
Dude, this is I'm feeling heavy American privilege crap going on right now. This is so ridiculous.
Gotta be the best to work in the U.S.
Oh my gosh, that's so bad.
It seems so much. Yeah, it seems definitely.
How many
harder
freedom
getting
units do we need?
Canada.
Oh my god, freedom
points. Yeah, it seems like in Canada or going to Europe, it seems it's a bit more lax, and like it's a bit easier and much easier of a process to get you and your spouse especially as well. Because like in the U.S. it's tricky as well. Like you can kind of come in on an O1 or an H1, but then your girlfriend or spouse can't work for a while until like they get a certain visa or whatnot, or sometimes they just don't ever, which is tricky. So
dude, that's so crazy to me.
Yeah, it's definitely different considerations.
Yeah, going to Sweden was like I applied, I had an art test, I had some phone interviews, then they flew me over there to check it out, and then when I got the job, it was just waiting for the work visa to come through.
You didn't have to like provide anything. They just kind of like
they just start. They're like, oh yeah, so like this is your like they needed passport information, right? So I think they'd gathered that, if I remember correctly. I think they gathered that when I did my on-site interview, just in case. So then they would have all that information already.
Oh, wow.
And getting a visa is like between 1 and a month's time.
Wow.
Or one day to 2 months. But when I was waiting on the visa, there was like you had the huge influx of refugees coming into Sweden, right? And they take priority over someone like me just applying. And so I'd actually ended my contract ended with Microsoft, and I was just waiting for the visa, and it took like I think it took 3 months. Like Microsoft even let me come back and work, knowing that I could leave any day.
Wow.
They're like, oh yeah, you could just work for a little bit, and then when it happens, you can just bounce. Like,
That's
okay,
really nice.
yeah, they were really. That was really nice of them. But like getting there, and I mean, right?
Similar.
Yeah, getting there was relatively simple. It's just waiting, right? But once I was there was all types of crazy culture shock stuff that I didn't realize was going to happen to me. Like friendly weird things, like going to a restaurant super late because I just landed and we don't know what's going on. And then you're like, oh yeah, I could just like, yeah, I'll get that pizza thing. What's pizza? Kebab on pizza? What's that? Okay, yeah. And then like sure, yeah, I'll get it. And then find out that they don't take card and it's cash only. And I'm like, oh, and he just tells me without even hesitating, I'll just come back tomorrow and you just pay me tomorrow. I'm like, what? What the hell is going on? But now I'm in the process of actually getting the permanent citizenship. Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it takes it's 5 years.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing the same in the UK here as well. I've been here for like 15 years now, and I'm like, you know what?
Dang, dude.
Now's just the time to get that citizenship. And I mean, like, I guess it'll make it easier for me to go elsewhere as well if I ever need to.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other culture shocks. Do you have any culture shocks going from like from Canada to the US?
Definitely. Just in terms of like, I guess, yeah, preconceived notions of of the US. Like, I remember, I don't know, just like dumb idea. I was like, oh man, it's dangerous over here. I remember it's so stupid, but like I remember like first week or so in Seattle, I was like, man, I'm just like walking the street, am I gonna get shot or something? I don't know.
Oh man, the fear, like we like prepped you to be scared coming in.
Yeah, well, I mean that's like on guns, like that's something I don't think I'll ever get used to over here, where it's like just the amount of shootings or just deaths that happen from guns. It's like insane.
Yeah.
Because in Canada, like that happens maybe like once a year, a couple times a year, and in the US, it's like almost every week, every other week, and it's like
It's nuts.
Does the vacation stuff stress you at all?
Vacation stuff?
Yeah, like is like the vacation, like the way you like acquire vacation time, is it different from Canada?
No, it's pretty similar. I think the big thing that's missing, I don't know if most companies have it in the US, but so far between Monolith and EA, like you don't have sick days, which is a bit annoying. So like anytime you're sick, you have to just basically take a vacation day.
That's insane.
Yeah, I find that super weird.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
Like,
in Canada, you had like a different pool. You had like sick days and then vacation days, so you never had to dip into your vacation days to take a sick day.
They had that at first in Washington State, at least.
Mm-hmm.
They had that when I was at Monolith, but I think it was like a statewide change.
I see.
See, the scariest thing for me for America is just the fact that you can go to work and it's your last day without knowing.
Oh, that fear? Yeah.
Like that's probably the only like, because I guess in Sweden, like most of the companies I've been in anyway in Europe, like you have that notice period, like you have that security that there's at least like you'll know you have a month or 2 weeks or whatever. But
yeah,
America, you can walk in and like, all right,
I will employment.
get out.
Yeah, that's
shit.
basically illegal in Sweden. You can't just remove someone.
Yeah, I might be mistaken, but I think if you're on a visa, you're a little bit more protected in the US for that stuff.
Yeah,
it could be wrong, but I think so. But yeah, that's definitely scary because like yeah, it seems like most places just kind of like at will employment. So I was like, yeah, we can terminate you anytime if you're not happy.
I still don't know what to do with all my vacation. It almost
Go on holiday, dude.
stresses me out, man.
Yeah, because you got like 5 weeks, right, in Sweden?
Yeah. I tried taking, and you get it all up front every beginning of every fiscal.
Oh shit! Wow.
So they just drop it on you.
Does it accumulate year to year too?
5 days on top. So like,
can you imagine that? Like 10 years later, you've got a whole year off.
Oh my god.
You're right back, guys. One year off.
Yeah. All right, cool. I'll see you later.
Let me know when the game ships.
Yeah. But then you have a kid in Sweden, and you and your partner, you don't even have to be married. Like you get all of the benefits, and it's like it's paid leave.
Nice.
I forget what the percentage is, but it's quite high, up to 400 days or something like that.
That's a big difference between Europe and Canada and the US. Like US is crazy to me that like moms or dads just literally get only 3 months off at most, if that. Like when they have a kid, it's like
they don't really utilize them that much either. Just because culturally you're kind of like, oh, I should be back at work as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then like healthcare stuff's definitely different. Yeah. I mean, people like get daycares already, but it's so young to me. Yeah, like, from Canada, it's like over there you can kind of just get a year paid leave and you're good.
I'm telling you, man,
sounds amazing.
Incubator like hospitals from the future. You're like, yeah, no, I want a kid now. Like, you're like, what the hell? This is so weird. I've had weird dreams like that before. I get really weird dreams for whatever reason.
Weird incubator dreams.
Yeah, I'm like, huh.
I had a dream last night. Just a volcano blew up right outside our office. It's cool.
No way. Really?
Yeah, it's weird.
Do you ever have extended dreams?
Like dreams that come back like night to night?
Well, so there's those ones, and then there's dreams. So extended dreams, I'm referring to dreams that are like you go to sleep for 8 hours, but it feels like 2 weeks went by.
Oh, yeah.
In the dream, like the dream was like 2 weeks of experience.
Yeah,
I
that
wish I
happens for
remembered my dreams. Fuck.
sure.
Sounds like a great time remembering your dreams.
I have those really vivid ones where you totally know that you're asleep, but you're so in charge of the situation, and you wake up and you're just slightly unaware of whether you're actually waking up or not, and you're like, wait, did I just buy that? Wait, no, I didn't. I was asleep.
Oh my god, we can totally solve the normal map problem if we do this and this. And you wake up and you're like, where's that notepad? Jobye told me to have this notepad nearby.
Those are usually shower thoughts for me. Like
Yeah?
thinking of random solves to stuff. Where you're just like, oh shit.
If you have a notepad in the bathroom
you
as
have a
well,
shower
man, just in
notepad?
case. Just in
Oh,
case.
yeah.
you don't
Waterproof
forget.
one.
Waterproof.
Dude, you want a dangerous tool for the shower is a pen that writes on tile.
Oh wow.
That's not a magnet. It's
So now you're
Done
thinking
that.
smart.
yeah, well, I mean, it needs to be like you'd have to have like an alcohol that you wipe it off with. So then, like, you can tell I've done this, but you
Next
have
level.
like if you have any ideas, you can just write on the tile real quick.
Damn.
And then you can come back to it later and then wipe it off later.
Yeah,
Then your
Jeremy
lunch
doesn't
shower.
bring
comes in.
Jeremy doesn't bring his notepad interviews. He brings his shower tiles.
He
Yeah.
has to
Yeah.
shower
I
to
just
work.
need a shower real quick.
I just chip them out and I'm like, all right, it's good to go. Let's go. Let's do this.
He's like, that's the 10th shower he's had today. What's
Yes,
going on?
yeah, maintenance at the office. Why is all this writing on the wall and why is it
Yeah.
whiskey in it?
Dude, whiteboard tables, man.
Yeah. I think it's because you work too much on the division, man. Just like writing on the wall everywhere.
You got so used to it.
Dude,
No,
that's
it's not normal, Jeremy.
That's the
It's not
trick to
normal.
whiteboards in games, man. Write on a real whiteboard and then take a picture of it.
Yeah.
Boom. Done.
Much easier than trying to fake that stuff with a Wacom tablet.
Oh yeah.
Actually is too. You're so right.
Photogrammetry, everything.
What were we talking about?
Yeah, I don't remember anymore.
Doesn't matter.
moving countries, right?
I think, yeah,
Countries, yeah.
I think we answered that mostly.
But yeah, I think like besides moving countries, like you just moving studios, I think just gives you a lot of perspective. Kind of challenges what you thought you know about development. Like yeah, because if you like that's how I felt after leaving EB, where I was there for like 5 years and kind of felt like I knew their workflows and how things were done, and then kind of like going to Monolith and then even Respawn, it's like yeah, just changes everything and gives you so much perspective on like what you thought may have been good or bad or yeah.
It's just healthy, right? Like I think
Mhm,
it's generally
I think
healthy
so.
to change studios from time to time.
Hmm. I agree.
Yeah, I think early on in your career, changing studios is really good because you need to experience, like, you'll accelerate
Your growth.
your growth and your experience gain as a game developer, not necessarily as an artist, but as a game developer, like on the floor with other people. You'll grow so much faster if you experience a couple different studios early on before you start to slow down and like I don't know if I'll ever leave Massive. I'm in that boat now, which is like, whoa.
Kind of feeling that way too. Now that I'm kind of like on Apex and like really good situation.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean, part of the ship, part of the crew now. Just
Yeah, I'll just merge into the tiles that I've drawn on, right? No one will know I'm there.
When you get your own office, just make sure it's tiles everywhere.
Oh, dude, that's genius.
It's like,
The
why
sound-
does Jeremy's office look like a bathroom?
The sound alone is like, oh man, there's a really bad joke sitting there. I'm gonna walk away.
it's probably
Oh,
that.
okay. So sorry, I've got a random question.
Go for
What
it.
games are you guys playing?
I just finished Last of Us. That was amazing.
Yeah, I just finished Last of Us.
Yeah, dude, I need to dive into it.
You do.
So I pretty much only played Destiny 2.
It's okay, man.
But I did finish Last of Us as well, at least. So
I mean,
Jeremy,
other than
it's
that,
like
I'm just playing Apex almost every night. It's just kind of crazy being able to
is
work
that because
on
you
it
have
too.
to, or because
Dang, that's hardcore.
Yeah, my girlfriend kind of makes fun of me. She was like, "So you work on Apex all day, and then you stop working, and then you play Apex at night?" And I'm like, "Yeah, 24/7."
Dude, that's all. Dude, Apex is sick, man.
Yeah, having fun with it.
I played some Apex earlier.
Yeah.
Tim, you play a lot of Apex, don't you?
Yeah, I play
Yeah, you pay
Apex
a lot.
every
You're
night.
basically paying his salary right now, dude.
No,
Probably
well,
killed Jobye a couple times.
Yeah, maybe.
if
Do
you're
we get
from an
alerted
EU
if it's a
server.
developer that we destroy?
No,
Does
not
that
yet.
happen?
Not yet.
Not yet. So it's coming then. Yeah.
Maybe.
So it's coming.
Mm,
Hopefully.
I've-
Heard it here first.
I'm playing Ori in the Blind Forest, the first one.
Oh, dude. I just
I
started
still
playing the
gotta
first one.
play
I
it.
played it backwards.
Kevin's been playing it, haven't you? Yeah.
I played the second one first, and
I
cried
heard that's a bad
nonstop.
idea.
And then I don't know if it was, but going back to the first one it's all right. First one is solid though. I'm about 2 hours in.
The second one is like a good improvement over the first.
Yeah.
part.
Yeah,
You should play the first one
from
first.
it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm very impressed at what like 80 people did fully remote before even like
Yeah.
everyone had to work remote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know they were remote until like a week ago, I think.
Mhm.
That's an insane challenge. Like
Yeah, it's
just
interesting.
figuring out how to like deal with everybody remote if the entire studio is always remote.
There's
It's
that one
cool.
studio, Counterplay, with Godfall, which seems like mostly remote as well.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
remote. I think
Yeah.
we had some counterplay guys recently. Actually,
Tim.
Alex and Tim.
yeah, with Alex and Tim on.
So I wonder if it would be useful if everyone's working from home, and you have those moments where you walk past someone, and then you're like, oh yeah, like I forgot to tell you blah blah blah, or like this thing I saw in the game. You don't have that when you're working at home.
No, you don't. Yeah.
So I'm
We-
wondering
we
if
don't
like
really-
there's a way to almost make this is a terrible point out to Second Life, but something that's like
VR
Like-
into your
well,
office.
it's like a browser based like top down. You're just running around, so you can run over to someone's desk, and then it just puts you in a call with them.
I
So you
would have
can-
used that system so much.
Just poking
Yeah.
people.
Dude, I just wanted
Hey,
to chat.
Hey.
Just poking people. Hey,
we,
I get calls
If
like
you
that
need to
all the
remind
time.
people.
Yeah,
if
we've
you
been
need to
we've been
remind
trying
people,
to
that'd be
simulate
very
that a little bit
bugs.
on our Apex environment art team, where like we basically just have like an all day kind of Zoom call running, and then everyone can kind of just feel free to pop in or out, and like
Yeah,
if
it's
you
like a
wanna,
common
talk to people
call.
as you're working. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you can kind of just pop in and out like as you're working and just chat with people. So it's kind of nice. So like sometimes like you just work in, there's like maybe like 4 or 5 people in there, and you're like, oh, you have a question, screen share real quick, ask someone like, oh, what do you think of this? And I know. So
Dude, you guys should get Fikas going. Fikas
Sorry?
are like coffee breaks that are like
Mm.
organized in a way where they happen like every couple of days, and they're like 30 minutes where everyone's just chilling there if they want, and you can just banter.
no,
Because
not quite. It's just,
they're super focused over here in
Uh-huh.
Sweden.
wow. So even like in the office, like beyond like the work from home stuff. Is that
Yeah,
what they do?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You can. I would argue that you could see a fika every day
Okay.
if you
Yeah.
want, from different teams, right? And
Mhm.
everyone takes turns bringing in a bunch of like cookies or like pastries, and then
Huh.
everyone's drinking coffee, and yeah,
That's fun.
No,
That
Bring us-
sounds excellent.
dude,
Bring
it's
us
really
some,
good.
Jeremy.
It's
Yeah.
really good, man. I enjoy it way too much. But like I was saying, they're really focused over here, right? So you'll have someone come in, and then they'll just sit down, and if they don't have meetings or they don't have to like go like meet up with someone, or there's no discussion stuff going on, they'll sit there and focus, and then they'll be right out the door right at like 5:30.
Right. So they just kind of like burn hot all day, and then don't have to.
Yeah,
crunch
and then they're good.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, it felt like I
remember
was
the days I didn't have
producing
meetings.
way more content with no
Yeah.
overtime,
hmm
which I
Yeah,
thought was
remember-
really weird.
Remember, I had like one of my friends when I was back in Toronto. Like, he had to like go move to Sweden to help a bit with dice, and
Hmm.
one day he was like working like still at his desk at 7. They're like, what are you doing, man? I'm like, get out of here.
You got to take care of your team, man.
Yeah.
Actually,
got-
that's an important thing to
yeah,
tell
yeah.
juniors all the time. Like, just dude,
Yeah.
just get out of here, go away.
Go home.
Yeah. I mean, I was the same kind of coming in as well. Like,
It's almost expected that that's what they act like, and
almost
you
like a
have
rite
to
of
make sure
passage.
that and you
Yeah.
just like, it's okay to like go home if you feel like you need that extra 30 minutes. Sure,
It's okay to go home.
then go home.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. Cause thinking back on that, I remember like I had like a producer who would tell me, "It's like kind of cool on the crunch, man. You're like kind of doing too much," and I was like, "No, like I was like, you just want to keep."
You can't tell me what to do.
Well, I was just thinking about I'm such an idiot. They're just trying to protect me from myself. That's it.
Yeah, burnout's scary.
Yeah, it's
It's
a thing.
part of growing and learning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to tell him because I remember we had a junior at Star Wars. Like he was kind of given a level and he was just going so hard, and it was still just like block out first pass. And I was like, dude, like, cool it. Like we're still so early in the project, and it's like it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. I think I got pulled into a meeting within the first week for going home at 6:30 for a couple days. They're like, yeah, you should just do your time,
Relax.
and then and don't forget to do your health hour, so you can leave an hour early as long as you're doing something healthy.
Oh wow, that's a thing.
Like once a week, yeah.
That's cool.
Like eating a salad?
Hour
Hour-long salad?
No, like go rock climbing or
Go to the gym. Yeah.
go to the
Yeah.
gym or just go for a run, or if you're riding your bike, dude, you get everywhere in Malmo with a bike in like 15 minutes or
That's
less.
nice.
Oh, that's
I
nice,
miss that.
yeah.
In Toronto, I used to like always bike to work. Now it's just drive everywhere now.
It's really weird. I probably can't drive a car anymore. I think the last time I was behind a wheel was like in 2014.
Yeah, when
Oh,
you
wow.
left.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that's a very American thing, right? Like having to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was scared about that when I moved to LA, but actually, it's kind of nice too. Like kind of having that freedom to kind of go anywhere you want. But yeah, I was definitely scared of it at first. I'm like, fuck, how am I gonna drive all the time?
Easy. You sit down just like at your desk, man. It's gonna be fine.
I do kind of miss my commute, like to work and like listen to a podcast and stuff. Now it's just like wake up, sit down, and start working already.
You can still do that, like walk around the block
Yeah, simulate it.
about 10 times.
Yeah,
get a
some
driving
people
wheel.
start doing that. Yeah, I kind of almost tempted to do it.
Dude, you should get like a race car game, right? And then get a wheel and everything and just race to work.
Yeah, VR headset, go for it.
Yeah. You're just like sweating and just what I missed this Zoom meeting.
I was just going to
Sorry, guys, a lot of traffic.
Got lost on the way.
I was ripping through Prague and I just forgot what time it was.
Yeah, Monaco's always busy at 9:30.
Let's buzz in.
All right. On that note, we've been an hour and a half, so I think that's a good point to wrap it up. So thank you so much to Jobye and Jeremy for joining me, and Kem and Luan, as always, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. If you want to learn more about EXP, head over to the website, read the articles, listen to our other podcasts, or come and join our Discord community. Thank you once again for listening in, and take care.
Love you.
Bye. Bye.
See ya.